Dante, Nero, and Virgil have sliced and diced through bosses big and small. However, there's some that are much more memorable than others. No, not you, Infested Chopper. Anyway, we went through all the Devil May Cry games to collect the 10 that we at IGN thought were the best of the best. There's a lot to choose from, so let's get right to it as we count down IGN's top 10 Devil May Cry bosses of all time, of eternity, of ever. You know what? Let's just go to the list.
Number 10.
Phantom, the giant, gross-looking lava spider scorpion thing, is the very first enemy you ever encounter in the Devil May Cry series, and he fits perfectly in the number 10 slot. Though he isn't particularly tough, he torments you the entire game and does an excellent job setting the tone for the entire series. It's all about big bosses that need to be taken down a peg, or need to get impaled by one.
Number 9.
Speaking of being taken down a peg, this next boss needs this to happen just so you can do damage to him. The fight with Savior is not only iconic due to his scale, but also because it's more of an exercise in platforming and patience than it is a hit the red spot to win fight. This time you hit the blue spot. By the end of it all, you'll have not only used Yamoto, but also gotten a little help from your own pistols, Ebony and Ivory, to make this godlike demon drop. Or maybe Dante was just making sure Nero got his sword back.
Number 8.
What does Dante do when someone hurts Trish? He gets pissed off, that's what. Mundus in the first Devil May Cry figured this out, and in an attempt to kill Dante, changes form, brings him to outer space, then starts throwing lightning, asteroids, and freaking lasers at him. How do you counter an attack like that? By sending a flaming dragon attack at the god to bring the fight back down to Earth, where you can cut him in half. Dragon greater than lasers, Mundus. You may want to write that down.
Number 7.
It's sad that he was being manipulated and all, but after seeing his smug face in the opening cutscene, it was rather enjoyable getting to kick the crap out of this guy. Number 7, Angelo Credo, is actually the name of the form that the Order told Credo he would evolve to. Okay, if that doesn't make sense, just know that it's cool when you're punching him in the face. The fight only gets better on harder difficulties, forcing you to counter his javelin, sending it right back at him. Ouch! Sure, Credo is one of the bosses that are not the size of a building or planet, but that just means he isn't compensating for anything. I'm looking at you, Mundus.
Number 6.
The boss fight itself isn't that difficult, but it does play up the fire and ice motif that we see so often in games. Okay, Rudra is wind, but you know what I mean. It also has a humorous element at the beginning and the end when the brothers argue about how to entertain their guest before Dante triggers the fight, and afterward when they plead Dante to take them with, which he graciously does with one condition.
No talking.
Number 5.
Yes, there's at least one of the new bosses on this list, and his name is Bob Barbas? Okay, so he doesn't look like much there, but the actual fight has you entering into Limbo and fighting a mix of Andross from Star Fox on an acid trip and something straight out of Tron.
This is Bob Barbas, just doing God's work.
This boss also does a good job of breaking the fourth wall with breaking news stories that take you out of the action for a second to tell a news story about you. But wait, you're actually playing still? Oh god, make him stop, Dante. My brain hurts. It hurts!
Number 4.
Nightmare has to be the most challenging and probably the creepiest boss from Devil May Cry 1. He's a gigantic puddle of black goo that can envelop you and then send you to what can best be described as hell. There, in the first encounter, you'll fight our number 10 boss, Phantom, and giant skulls that torment you until you can kill them and then escape. The second time you fight him, he's still a giant blob, but now he has more powers and continue to hell to fight those skulls and Nello Angela. The blob has no easy weakness, lives up to his name Nightmare, and still creeps me out to this day.
Number 3.
Ever seen Little Shop of Horrors? You know, the movie about the plant that needed blood to survive? Imagine that thing could fly, shoot seeds at you, and had a female demon living inside of it. That's Echidna, our number 3 entry, and she is challenging not only because she's large, but also because she takes multiple shapes, each of which give you something new to think about during the fight. Her tendrils can come up out of the ground, put her in the air, allowing her to spawn new enemies. and she can simply fly away and then charge at you. Thankfully, when Dante faces the same boss, he just takes care of business. And no, there's no song. I said there's no song!
I think that look suits you better.
Number 2.
Brile's main attack? Fire. His main weapon? A gigantic sword. That, plus he looks exactly what you would expect a demon to look like, and he's about the size of a house. One of the earlier boss encounters, Brile doesn't give Nero that much of a challenge, and later Dante meets up with him to give him a second beatdown, but this boss fight will stick out in any Devil May Cry fan's brain as an epic encounter. And he's freaking cool, just look at him. Now imagine this guy using a Devil Trigger. Spoilers, he can in Dante Must Die mode. Now, before we move on, let's do a quick recap. Number 10, Phantom. Number 9, Savior. Number 8, Mundus. Number 7, Angelo Credo. Wipe that smile off your face. Number 6, Agni and Rudra. No talking. Number 5, breaking news, it's Bob Barbas. Number 4, Nightmare. Stop creeping me out. Number 3, Echidna, the giant plant. Number 2, the fire-covered Brile, and that leaves...
Number 1.
Virgil. You knew he was going to be somewhere on the list. Virgil is about as iconic as Dante, and some of his boss fights are amazing. You fight him multiple times in Devil May Cry 3, and each time he does some extremely cool sword maneuvers that he'll be using as he attempts to murder Dante. Spoiler warning, he also has a second form, Nello Angelo. You first fight Nello Angelo in Devil May Cry 1, and while the fight is epic, he does leave a jewel behind indicating who he actually was. Virgil, in all of his forms, definitely deserves the number 1 spot on this list. I mean, who else except Dante's brother can give him a real run for his money? And that's our top 10 Devil May Cry bosses. Did we miss something? Let us know about it in the comments below, and if you're looking for help with the new DMC, we have a wiki that's got you covered. Anyway, for more on Devil May Cry, be sure to keep it locked right here on IGN.